welcome. We're had a little break. We've tapped out a James and brought in a Jon. The functional reason is James's developer on Fallout Factions. Jon, what are you to Fallout Wasteland Warfare, and why are you here now talking to us?
So, funny story. So, for those of you who have been following along at home for a while, so I see you in the chat. I've been the visionary, the brand visionary for the Fallout line uh, for over 5 years now, I think, which is terrifying. And this is what I'm calling my Wave Goodbye tour. So, any Nine Inch Nails fans in the audience may remember the Wave Goodbye tour where Trent went away, but he did come back, and that's kind of why I'm calling it my Wave Goodbye tour, because this is the end, or is it? But yeah, so I've been kind of heading up the Fallout line for the last 5 years. Fallout Factions was kind of, it began as my baby, but it was always a kind of like like I knew I was never going to make it, so it was kind of like a handover thing, and it was great. We managed to recruit James, and that's been really good fun working with him on the Origin, and then basically being like, okay, go forth. And I guess the other thing as well is like what I've been really trying to do with the Fallout brand is continue to take the fantastic start we had and grow and build the pipeline, um, and kind of drag us kicking and screaming into the next phase of what we do with miniatures within the company and kind of miniature war games. So obviously we've had a superb 3D team for the longest time. You know, Joanna repping all the cool kids in the 3D team under Johnny's tutelage. And I wanted to bring everything else up to that level. So that's kind of really what I've been doing with Wasteland Warfare. And I think, I'm here to talk about Nuka World, the Fallout Wasteland Warfare Nuka World, not Nuka World Fallout Factions. There is a key distinction. Because I think that's kind of the accumulation of kind of the last 5 years of the journey, really, and also is the point at which I do come to say goodbye in a weird, slightly bittersweet way. So yeah, so so Fallout Factions, sorry, Fallout Wasteland Warfare Nuka World. It's quite hard keeping it straight in my head, so goodness knows
Yeah.
how the audience are dealing with it. Is really, like I say, it's kind of the book that brings together everything we've been doing, and it's interesting because I think for Callum, it's kind of the first real book where he's done some of the work, and getting Callum, bring him into the team has been a huge blessing. The stuff we've done before is great, but I think when you start seeing what Callum's been doing, there's a tiny bit of your work in Wave 9, and then Wave 10 is kind of the Callum show, and it has only grown, even greater. Then also Julian, we brought Julian in as our terrain guru. So, like I say, it's kind of bringing up the bits that were needing to be brought up to meet the work we were doing with 3D. So we've now got a dedicated terrain department. We've got a dedicated painting department. We already had a fantastic 3D department, awesome layout, photography. And so it's putting all those pieces together. I think the other weird thing for me is Nuka World is the book I did the most writing on. Though I'm not a developer, I'm not a games designer, but I dabble. I have done little bits in the past, and I actually ended up taking the work of the dev team and kind of doing a huge amount of extra work on top of it. And so I think I've actually got a design credit on this book, which is a bit weird because it's not really what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, I did
It
quite a lot
happens
of
to us
writing.
all eventually, Jon.
Yeah, I guess it means you can blame me if you all hate it, but hopefully you won't. And I think the interesting thing with the book as well is, like I say, it's kind of a pivot point for Wasteland Warfare as a game, and it's finally kicking in a bunch of initiatives that I've been slowly building towards. So we'll sort of maybe talk about the book at the end,
Yeah.
because I think people want to see the cool figures first, and everyone wants to hear me rabbit on for ages. But there's a couple of key changes that are happening in the Nuka World book, which hopefully will continue beyond Wave 9. But I don't know, because this is the kind of the baton pass where I hand over to Ben and Samantha, and they are taking the brand into its next kind of era. So
Yeah.
straight up, Ben, no pressure. Yeah, absolutely. So
That's the handover meeting you want, isn't it?
that's the handover meeting you want. Yeah, no pressure, son. I'm watching it.
It was the official brief.
Was,
Yeah.
Don't screw this up.
Don't
I just
guff
want
this,
to quickly touch on a couple of points because I've been hiding in the background, reading the notes. So with the plastics, obviously Colin, our plastic specialist, has done all the plastics. So the first things you saw from Colin, or the first thing you saw, because you haven't seen the second thing from Colin yet, was the T45 armor kit, and that was just a taste of what we're doing. So with the three gangs that we've done for Nuka World, they are cross game and that's kind of what we're trying to do a lot of now. So they work in both Wasteland Warfare and Faction. So if you paint a gang for one, congratulations, you've got a gang for both. They are, if you think of the T45 kit as a single frame, all Nuka World gangs are dual frames, so you get twice as many frames, and they are not repeats of the same frame. They are, I mean, technically it's one frame snapped in half. The complexities of plastic, I'm not going to go into it. They are from a single bolster, but technically you could think of it as 2 frames if that's how you choose to be. But yeah, so you get 10 unique sculpts per set of models rather than 5 sculpts repeated twice. So that's pretty cool. And each of the miniatures can be built in 2 different ways. So every single model has 2 different loadouts. Sometimes range melee, sometimes range. It depends. Also depends depending on what the gang's kind of specialism is. So disciples are a bit more melee versus the operators being a bit more shooty. However, the butchers will have 3 variations, so even more fun. And several of the veterans also have 3 options, but as James mentioned in the last section, some of those are Wasteland Warfare specific, so you don't get missile launchers for everybody in factions because it's quite a powerful weapon. So there's already quite a lot of flexibility within that. On top of that, because it's a plastic kit and there's space on the frame, there are those basing details we mentioned. So there's no scenic bases in the sets. There are scenic elements that you can, glue, and including the. I'm not going to repeat what Steve described the model as, but the crouching member of the pack does come with a scenic detail, so you can have him crouching on a really cool scenic detail.
Ready to spring.
No comment. But there's a bunch of little bits and pieces there. And then there's also a whole bunch of, your classic grenade pouches and pistols and daggers and all sorts. So if you're good with your craft knife, or you want to customize your resin miniatures, there's a load of extra bits that with a little bit of hobby work, you can really mix up and do a lot with those kits. So, the cynical business bit of me is go and buy 2 of each box because you will get 20 unique figures out of that. If you really want to be a hero, buy 3 because technically there's about 27 unique pieces in there before you get into conversion. So there's quite a lot of flexibility in those kits. With a load of really cool options before you even think about converting and cutting and pasting. So they're really fun, and I think they're really setting the tone for what we're doing. Getting Colin, I think I've said it before, was just an absolute godsend. Like the CV hit my desk, and I was like, I can't really say no to this because this will never happen again. And he's now working on a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure Ben won't let me talk about. But that kind of dual frame, 8 to 10 figures in a box, flexible, custom options is where we're going to go with the plastics, and it would be considered core sets if you think about how that works. And then resin will continue because I can't lose Joanna, Johnny, Crispy Domingo, Ben, the team. Like, don't go anywhere. I need you guys. So we'll continue doing resin for more bigger pieces, heroes, characters, more esoteric choices, and you'll see this as we talk through Wave 9 and then in the future Wave 10. You'll start to notice there's that distinction, but everything plastic is being done dual purpose, and then everything resin mostly will continue to focus on the Wasteland Warfare line, but obviously everything plastic also works in Wasteland Warfare, so it's a good time. So that's enough about this. Let's look at some cool pictures because that's what we're all here for, right?
It's my reason for working on a Saturday evening, definitely.
Sure.
We're going to have it's also nice to hang out with you guys. So what we're going to do to prevent me asking awkward questions, if Callum, Joe, if you work on one of these, put your hand up or something.
Good idea.
Help me out here.
Yeah. Buzzer, right? Just buzz in.
Oh, it's mine. Yeah. Just something like that. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah. We're going to crack on, and unsurprisingly, because we went to them first on factions, we are going to start with the Raiders, and this first bunch are the Disciples bosses. So if you had your eyes peeled at the end of last year's, he's raising his hand. What a good boy! House points to Gryffindor. Well done, sir. Although you could be a Ravenclaw, I suppose, not a Hufflepuff, what they called. But yeah, so if you saw at the end of last year's ModCon, you will have seen little sneak peeks of these, which were painted by Callum, and he took some photos with his phone. These are
the proper job ones.
So why don't you start talking about these then, Callum? Tell us
Sure.
what's like.
I think these were the second thing I worked on when I joined the company, which is just under a year ago. I'm almost been here a year, which gives you an idea of the lead time. That's not even like the longest lead time stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
But these were great fun to do. It's like a boiler suit kind of jean texture on the trousers. I really enjoyed doing that. They were quite stressful actually, like for like a first project, because there are eyes in that mask. They are sculpted. So trying to get a little brush detail in there, I was like, they're watching, they're going to be thinking.
Yeah.
But they're beautiful models, and it's a credit to the sculpting team because they did a really fantastic job getting all those kind of different textures in there. The slight surface detail to the metal to give it that kind of like battered, hammered look. All the leather's really beautifully rendered, and as I say, with the jeans and jean boiler suit, cloth. They're really lovely models. I had great fun painting these. I'm really happy with how they come out.
Nice. So let's look at them in
they do
detail.
great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. They first up, Dixie. We'll just John, Ben, if you want to dive in and talk about these models in any way particular or things that make sense to talk about rules wise, feel free to dive in. Otherwise,
Sure. So I think I don't want to get too caught up in the rules because it could be a whole
no.
kind of hour-long conversation of itself. But I think the kind of the real thing with the rules is the way. No, let's save it. Let's do the rules as a
Let's
separate
say
thing.
then. Okay,
Yeah,
then.
like
Cool.
each of the gangs has a very specific flavor, and I think with the disciples, if you've played Nuka World, they are a bunch of psycho butchers who take far too much pleasure in murdering people, and we really try to reflect that in
Yeah.
their rules. So, they have skills that are about close combat. They have skills about intimidation, and they tend to be quite a close range, fighty kind of gang. So yeah, things like weak spot, they're good at penetrating armor. Assassin, they get silence mods. They can break people's arms because they like to torture people. They're a little bit dodgy, so they can be evasive at range, that kind of thing. Yeah, not nice people that you want living
No,
under
not
your
really.
restaurant in Nuka World because they are scary and they should be stopped.
Probably makes a lot of sense that way. But yes, so those are the disciples bosses. Here they are, just hanging out in Nuka World as you do on a team building day out, I suppose.
And you can see there, like Julian's terrain.
Yes.
It's really helped bring our photography forward. So, like, one of the hardest parts, I think back when we did the 2-player starter set 6 years ago, one of the first things I did with Modiphius, we did not have a lot of terrain. And, a bit like Callum, really, both Julian and Callum caught my eye in the community. And I was like, yeah, you guys are working for me. So I swept in and poached them and stole them away to my secret laboratory under my volcano layer. And yeah, that coming together of, Callum's amazing painting and Julian's amazing terrain and all the awesome work that the 3D team do. I think Ben the Bosdari did a fair chunk of these guys. I definitely know he did the chap on the metal girder. And it just, it really, gives the photography team what to work with, and it lets us start to do some interesting things in terms of, actually showing our miniatures off in situ. And I think, it's hysterical. I was watching the factions live stream, and we had a war games table with war games terrain on it that you were playing a war game on, and I was like, hooray, we did it. We can finally actually show a game being played, whereas before it was always like we've got that awesome Drummed and Diner table, which is stunning, it's beautiful table, and that was the only thing we had that you can play games on. So it was always really hard to show off gameplay and stuff. And now we're starting to, through the work that Julie's done, we've had Sean, who's our kind of 3D terrain specialist. All the STLs that have been coming out for print at home has all been done by Sean. So, like I said, I've been building that pipeline, building it so that we can actually start to show wargamers doing wargaming, as opposed to hey, we've got some really cool models. ... So I see shots like this, and it means we can put more in the books. It's better for people for reference. It's inspiring. It makes you go, wow, that looks really cool. I want to do some of that. And Julian's done painting guides, so he took over from me for the painting guides because I don't have time anymore, and maybe he's better at it than me as well. Whisper it quietly. So he's been doing painting guides, and there are some in the Nuka World book, and then also in Fallout Factions. And he's also been doing some on the website. So if you jump on the website, you can even grab some off that. And so we're just trying to give as much of that wargame hobby content and experience to help onboard people. Because I know one of the interesting things for us is we have people who are wargamers who like Fallout, but then we also have people who like Fallout who are like, so what's all this wargaming about? And if there's one thing I can tell you as someone who's been wargaming for 30 years, it's a huge, deep, terrifying hobby. Like, awesome, but it's very intimidating to get into. So anything we can do to try and help people who are coming over from the kind of Fallout side of it as opposed to the wargame side of it, that's kind of what this is about as well. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of this when we talk about rules. But it's just, it's great to see.
Yeah. We want some fresh meat in there every so often. It's good to have. The operators bosses are up now. So this is the next set for Wave 9, Fallout Wasteland Warfare. We've got two hands up.
Perfect.
The double whammy. Joe, do you want to start and talk about these?
Yeah, I mean these were super fun just to model. I think I don't know like what to start with, but I will say Lizzie's probably my favorite.
Okay.
And I don't know, she's just different. It was like you go through so many different types of characters while you're modeling the minis throughout all the waves and everything, and she was just a bit different. So I enjoyed having her. She's staunchy, but good.
Next up is Mags.
Yeah, Mags was fun. Her belt was an interesting, like for the manufacturing side of things and sculpting, her belt was fun to figure out to make it work for manufacturing. But yeah, I mean, all three, like William, Lizzie, and Mags, just fun, well-rounded, well-dressed characters. So they're also part of the suit gang.
Yes. The hunter in chat's like, leg wrench holster. Yeah, and I love that as well. It's just like, it's a really nice little detail. It's so cool. And then there's William, who I do think bears a passing resemblance to Jared Leto.
Yeah, now looking at it, yep, I can see it.
I just saw that and I was just like, Mobius? But no, Morbius even, sorry. But getting my Marvels mixed up. But yeah. Callum, do you want to add anything about painting these bunch up?
I mean, well, I alluded to it earlier. These were the models that I painted for the operators. So there is texture. William wears more of like a shiny suit, doesn't he? It's got like a bit of sheen to it. So it was more of a smooth blending technique. Whereas Mags is a textured suit. We were, in fact, when we were getting approval for this, John, we were trying to work out what the name of the suit pattern is. Can you remember it? I can't remember what it's called, but it's that kind of texture. It's not tweed, but it was something.
Yeah. We were trying to work out. Is it
Dogtooth? Was it Dogtooth?
Yeah. So
something
is
like
it
that.
plaid? Is it tartan? Which is and then it gets into what is plaid, what is tartan, blah blah blah. Is it yeah? We spent a lot of time hunting. Like weird side tangent. I used to have a car, or my parents owned a car that had that pattern on the seats, and I was like, when I was a child we had it, and I was trying to remember the fact of that. But yeah, so it's like a dogtooth plaid technically.
Right.
This is the fun we have behind the scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously you abstract it down to this scale, but it was just trying to, at that point. No, I say at that point, it sounds like I don't care about my job anymore. I love my job, but I was very keen and eager to impress. So I was like down to the houndstooth. I like that. But very specific. But yeah, if you are painting these, my tip would be work in to out. So start with the suit, because they're the fiddly bits to get to, and then do your leather straps, and then do your metal plates.
Nice.
And also with these models, if it makes it easier for you, like with William, if you want to leave his arm off, because it crosses the chest, that's how we do it in studio. That's another. I don't know. It's turned into tips and tricks. But these
we may get onto like some tips and tricks later. There may be something coming for that, but there we go.
It might be. But Joey did an excellent job with these, and it was genuinely one of those where I joined the team, and what's her name? Is it Lizzie? Sorry, your favourite. You were saying
the one in the skirt.
The face, the expression on the face, the kind of like cheerful, like smirks, like self-confident pose. When I saw that, I was like, these miniatures are wicked. I'm so happy to be here. So I hope you guys enjoy these because they're really cool.
They are good. They're great fun.
Yeah,
Don't
hopefully.
don't trust anything Lizzie hands you. If she hands you a drink, don't.
Yeah,
No.
I can
She's
see
a
it.
wrong on that, Lizzie.
I can see a question about the inspiration for the basing. I believe it's the operator's bases, like the
Yes.
actual operator's bases where it's located.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
that's
this is the last wave where there are resin bases, resin scenic bases included with all the non-plastic sets. So the plastic gangs do not have scenic bases. All the other miniatures in this block or wave do have resin scenic bases. And then wave 10 is where we move away from that. And there will be a very small handful of models that do include resin bases, and I don't want to spoil the fun things we've done because again, we're always trying to innovate and we're always trying to come up with new ideas. And there's something cool in Wave 10 that Julian went wild for that we'll maybe talk about in a year's time or whenever it is. But yeah, so as Joe says, the operators they live in the old. Not a theatre, is it? Is it a theatre? It's
it
not a
kind of
stage.
is. I think it's
isn't
like
it?
it has like a
Yeah.
theater in the kitchen.
It
It's like a
very much
whole.
is a theatre.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
some like nice wooden floors and some nice carpet. Unlike I don't know, say those weird disciple nutters who live in a dank undercave that's just full of meat and blood, and you're like, it probably stinks down there, and you probably will get quite ill from that. This is a little bit classier, but yes, it does include Lizzie's chem kitchen where she cooks up strange things to put on unwilling
Delicious cams.
participants. Delicious chems.
Yum yum yum. They're so Moorish. So yeah, here
That's
we've
another-
got the. Oh no, you go.
I was just gonna say that's another shot showing off Julian's beautiful stuff. I think did I
Exactly.
beat you? Is that what you were gonna?
You did.
Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, and I was also going to add, so like this is now like the first time we're really showing the plastic kits combined with these resin Fallout kits. So if you're like running this as a Wasteland Warfare team, this is the kind of thing you can be expecting. Those bosses working together with those plastic sets. But yeah, I think it looks fantastic. It looks so good.
It really does.
Yeah. Just quickly in terms of a kind of a rules thing, as I said earlier, the
Sure.
operators are a very ranged heavy gang, and they're also a gang that kind of requires their leaders to inspire them, and so they give out buffs. And again, I'll talk about auras and buffs in a minute because that's one of the rules. Not changes, tweaks that have happened. I think like an interesting thing is like, for example, so William is Mags's brother, so Mags is the leader of the gang. William's her brother, and he plays kind of a bodyguard role, so he can basically step in front of shots. So the idea is he kind of hangs out with Mags and takes the bullets for her because she's the boss and he's wearing a bit more armor. Obviously, Lizzie is a chemist, so if you run her with a lot of chems, she can try. She's quite efficient with chems. Gets to flip to find out if she actually uses a chem up or not. So she's quite efficient on that front. And each of the gangs does have some new rules because again we're doing some interesting things with the rules. So if you play like a pure operators gang or a pure pack gang, you get a factional benefit as a result of that. And again, I'll sort of talk about some of what that means a little bit later. But yeah, so if you like to hang back and shoot, because these guys are so sharply dressed, they don't want to get their suits dirty, do they? So they hang back and they kind of support each other with ranged attacks. They buff each other up with ranged attacks, and hopefully machine gun down all those dirty disciples before they get
Exactly. Speaking of dirty, let's move on to the pack. So this is the pack boss, singular. There's one boss, two good boys who are gonna help him out. Some of the eagle-eyed amongst you may have seen this already, but we won't talk about that because things happen. Sometimes things happen. But consider that a teaser. Now here's the full proper look. So it wouldn't be Fallout without doggos. So yeah, this is a good one.
I've been trying to get more dog sculpts that are not dog meat into this game for 5 years, and I finally found a way of doing it because obviously we like to do those 3 packs. It's quite a good number for the characters, and the disciples and the operators nicely come with 3 leader type characters, and then the pack have Mason, and it was like, oh, do we release Mason on his own? I was like, but wait, what if I gave him dogs? And obviously they have the little like pit fighting bit in front of where his throne, and they like to use dogs. They are the pack. Let's face it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
who can resist a bunch of good doggos? Who can resist
Exactly.
doggles? Doggles are the greatest thing ever. And what's
I
great
love
about
this
this
guy.
is,
He's just like,
like if you want to use your combat dogs in other gangs, these work very well. There may or may not be more dogs in the future. I can neither confirm nor deny. That's kind of a Ben thing. I also like they've got their rapid deployment handles, so you can kind of carry them and then rapidly deploy them into battle. So they are proper combat
yeah, they
deployment
do.
dogs. And Mason was a cool sculpt. This one wasn't yours,
Ben.
was it, Joe? This was Ben.
Yeah, Ben did this.
We
It's
want to
new
try
pack.
and keep that the story. We're always trying to tell a story with the miniatures. So one of the things with the pack is when a leader is overthrown, he's not killed, or they are not killed. They are tarred and feathered. So if you look at the base, you've got the paint and all the feathers, where Mason has kind of overthrown the last of the leaders. And painted them and covered them in feathers. So it's we're always trying to so many of the bases have little Easter egg details where if you know Fallout really well, you'll spot it and be like, "Oh, I know what that's referencing," or "Isn't that really cute?"
Yeah.
So
that's one of the things with doing a game of Fallout. You've got so much you can draw on those Easter eggs. If you didn't use them, that'd be such a wasted opportunity. So those are the pack bosses. One for each of the one of the bosses for each of the gangs we've discussed already: Disciples, Operators, and the pack. But that's not to say it's the only people you need to worry about in the park. These are the park Overlords, and possibly one of the chunkiest looking models I think we've done in a long time. Who wants to dive in and answer to these bad looking dudes?
Did you do these, Jana?
I did one.
Which one did you do?
I did Shank. I did the Shank with the hat and the pose of, I don't know.
I think Shank is the last in this list, but up first
so I'll stay quiet.
is Coulter with the when power armor isn't enough, you add a blast plate. You know.
Crispy did great on these,
so
especially
good.
this guy.
Yeah, and it's when I was putting the slides together for this, there is that does sit forward of the model, and there's the right amount of gaps. It's just so intricate. I loved it. It was so good. Gage with the bright yellow definitely knows what they want. And then Shank, which you were mentioning.
Yeah.
With that. Sorry. There you go.
I was just going to say, I think if we're going to go 3D modeling side, again, it was just a fun model where it's not anything overly crazy, like Coulter, but which is awesome to see. But it's just more, for these ones, it's always about the subtle bits in the pose where you are trying to get across a feeling of I don't know, for him it's very standoffish and in power and facial expressions, but then because the other thing a lot with our minis as well, we're trying to not have exact same poses throughout, so it's not always actiony poses, but it's also not still frame poses, so we try to get a good balance, which hopefully comes across.
With Shank, would you say he's good, bad, or ugly potentially?
No. Maybe a little of all three.
we do like to reference just a smidgen of pop culture Easter egg in there here and there. So maybe he's a man with no name. I think I'm getting my reference right there. Again, another great shot with Julian's terrain in the background. So Julian did build the park wall and the cage for the well, we'll come on to what may be living in the cage in a minute, I suppose. But do not feed the bears. And that armor panel in front of Coulter's head is a separate part, so he does have a full face detail, and that window is see-through. Does that make sense? You can see through the window. So there's a lot of detail there that you can get in and paint, and then you glue that panel over the top if you so choose, and then you can just see in through the little post box, which is really cool.
It's
amazing.
That's if you want to run normal raiders, these will work with them, or if you want to just ally them in with the kind of the gangs, from Nuka World, that's an option as well. Or if you just want a cool model to be your hero or your NPC, if you're playing 2D20, or
yeah,
it's fun,
exactly.
right?
That's
Just
that's
a tiny hint of the rules. So Coulter is fun. He has the rule cheater. So if you're aware of Coulter and what he gets up to, he's kind of your second major obstacle in the way through Nuka World. The first is obviously getting into the park itself, which is quite an ordeal. But yeah, so he doesn't suffer the negative modifiers to quick action skill tests, and uses standard color ranges for quick action movement. So he basically gets to do quick actions as full actions because he cheats. He taunts people nearby him, so you kind of have to shoot him, otherwise you get a negative modifier. And his Overlords power armor is obviously electrified, so he gets to like zap people nearby him. So he's quite a fun model. And obviously the Overboss power armor is a new suit of power armor. It's kind of a modification of the Raider power armor. There is a lot of armor being added in this block that fills some gaps, and I'll explain why towards the end of the chat, because things have changed on the armor front.
No worries. So that's it for the Raiders. We are now going to move on to Pusher's button. Why isn't button working? Button is working. The survivors. It wouldn't be a Fallout wave without a good few lone survivors trying to make their way across the wasteland. And so for this one, we've got some park personalities. Possibly someone just said in chat, like, I wasn't expecting to see quite such an esoteric character. I'm like, you have no idea what's coming, buddy, because I can tell you, look at these guys. But yeah, I don't think this is a Joe or a Callum special, but no, look, oh man.
Sadly, because these are beautifully painted.
They are amazing.
I'm very jealous of whoever did that suit with the little paint splatters and that. That's gorgeous work.
Yeah.
It all is.
Oh yeah, definitely. What's the challenge in? We're wave 9 of Wasteland Warfare now. What's the challenge in keeping like the kind of the survivors still to be interesting without making them just like every single release a completely wacky different thing which has to have loads of tons of new rules? How does that balance work?
The survivors are definitely a tricky one because they're the most character heavy faction, but also the most like many of the survivors will never, quote unquote, meet each other canonically. So yeah, that definitely gets hard. Like I love a really nice tight knit unit. So everyone knows Gunners are my favorite faction. Ha ha ha. The joke continues. But like, what's great about the Gunners is it's like, Bosch, that's my chunk of Gunners, and they all are the Gunners together, or that's my chunk of Brotherhood of Steel. With the survivors, you can have the Minutemen, you can have robots, you can have poor little farmers just trying to get by. You can have, Sito, the totally not Tarzan guy. There's all these different bits. And so yeah, like it's always difficult to balance that. Like, how do we make them exciting and true to their character, but without having 30,000 special rules on each of the models? And that's always interesting. And certainly when you get into things like Oswald, where he gets his radiation burst. He can heal ghouls nearby him. He's got this special costume that pumps his stats. Like it's difficult, but it's kind of also fun because they're the kind of if you think back to classic war games, they are the special characters. So it's not just the hero. It's like, no, this is Oswald the Outrageous, the hero, and he's got this backstory, quite a tragic backstory, and it's what we're always trying to do, kind of with the basing as well, with the with the pose, with the basing, we're trying to tell the story of that model. Who is Oswald the Outrageous? What is his story? Where has he come from? Where is he going? How can we encapsulate that in a 32mm resin figure, which is quite a challenge at times. And so that the pose, the paint job, the rules, it all builds up. And again, hopefully anyone who really knows their Fallout can kind of spot the little things and be like, oh, that's really cool. Anyone who doesn't know Fallout so well is just like, wow, what a really cool zombie wizard. I like him. And I think that Sierra is a really good example. There is a challenge out there. Someone has to tell me what the joke / Easter egg of Sierra Petrovita is, because I put something that's probably so stupid that only I will ever A, laugh at it, and B, get it, but something about that model I did deliberately because I think it's funny and I want somebody to
Okay.
tell me what it was. And if they do, I don't know. They win the prize, and I'll tell you what the prize is if anyone ever figures it out. But yeah, so
amazing.
survivors are fun.
Yeah. These guys great. So you probably would want to run a few ghouls with Oswald.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He is like, it's that thing. We're trying to make it so that you can absolutely play your, all your mates together going on an adventure, or I like this bit and this bit. But also, if you are like me and you like a very specific, zoomed in, cohesive unit, you can do that as well. So if you want to run, Oswald and the glowing ones and the feral ghouls, you can absolutely do that.
Cool.
If you want Oswald working with survivors, you can absolutely do that. If you want Oswald working with the Brother of Steel, you can do that too. I'm not going to stop you. I may question your choices, but that's absolutely a thing you can do. So, like, it's that we don't want to pigeonhole people unless they're playing factions, in which case, get in the pigeonhole. That's the point of that game. But for Wasteland Warfare, it's an open game. But if you want to be that kind of narrative driven, I really want to tell the story of Oswald and his crew of like, because it's all the like performers from the Kiddie Kingdom. They used to do the stage show. He was the magician in the stage show. So if you wanted to tell that story about how they've descended into ghouldom, you can do that and build literally a group of ghouls. And how would that play out on the table? And again, when we get to the rules bit, I'll explain some of how that's changed here, and then hopefully how that will then progress into the future. Pressure, Ben.
Well,
so keep throwing Ben under this bus, like it's on you.
Ben's making so many notes right now. Let's push on then. So we'll get to the rules later. We are now moving into Unaligned. Always a tricky one to work out who goes in this, but I don't think anyone will be disappointed with the XO1 set. So, was this what you were alluding to earlier, John?
So, what's funny about this set is I alluded to this set well over a year ago, because this was supposed to be dropping with the last wave. And there are, when I write my memoirs of my time as a gamer, I will tell the story of why they didn't. Because I had a plan for these that I was not allowed to carry out. But anyway, this is the perfect place for them, because obviously, what do you find in Nuka World? You find a really cool set of Nuka World armor. And so this was the perfect place. And I want to say Craig painted these, and I think he did a great job.
He crushed it.
Like they're really cool. And again, if you've built the T45s, these are built in a very similar thing where there's 3 different poses. There's a whole bunch of different weapon options in there, and these are Fallout 4 era guns, whereas the T45s had Fallout 3 era guns. We're doing the Fallout 4 guns; they are coming. Don't worry. So you can mix and match. And again, what Colin did that was above and beyond is originally there were 3 poses, and each set had like 2 or 3 sets of arms. Colin made it so every set of arms fits on every body, so you can actually put the heavy weapon arms on the melee body for the sake of argument, and it still works really well. So, as I say, Colin was just the perfect addition to the team, because he can do amazing things in plastic. The team do amazing things in resin. But so I know people have been waiting for more power armor. Obviously, this is a sign of things to come. But this is a really, really cool kit, and it luckily fitted beautifully into Nuka World because of the whole quantum armor. So now there's more than one suit of XO1. What weapon options they come with? So
they come with these weapon options.
They do. I don't have the frame. So I'm currently in the process of trying to move house. So everything is in the boxes in the garage. So I don't have my frames to hand. But hey, there you go. Look at that.
There you go. I planned for this.
Well done, Steve. Well done. So you've got a Ripper in there, which is cool. You've got an Incinerator, as well as the Gatling minigun. Laser rifle. You can't not have laser rifles. I mean, if I had my way, I think every arm would have laser rifles. A fire axe for your Fallout 76 players. I think it's just a really cool weapon, and it looks really fun. There's a really nice pose combo with the pistol and the fire axe. An open hand if you want to add your own weapon in there. And I think the other interesting thing you can do with these, John's top tips: if you cut the hand off at the wrist, you can actually put the T45 hands on there as well. So it is a conversion. It's a modifier. But yes, you can actually technically swap. What you can't do is, well, again, if you want to convert, you probably could. You can't technically glue the XO1 arms on the T45, because It's nice when Bethesda can do it in engine. Reality stops that working physically, so we didn't make it so that power armor, I mean, that way madness lies if we do, each of the arms and legs and whatever we cut. No, before anybody asks.
You
but
could convert it if
you could
if
convert
really
it,
set
and
on
I
it.
can't wait to see, if people start chopping and changing arms and heads and whatnot. The heads are all separate, and it does again come with the male and female nude heads, unarmored heads, unhelmeted heads.
I don't like that.
Yeah, nude head sounds bad. So yeah, you can have
Just
your Nate or Nora or generic. And
to
I think
clarify,
again,
these are plastic, aren't they, John?
These are
Just-
absolutely
just-
plastic.
yeah,
This is,
just for people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
No,
Yeah,
it's cool. And Monkey, to answer your question, the resin upgrade kit is coming. I still haven't seen. They've been printed. I know they've been 3D printed. I don't think you've painted them yet, have you, Callum? But there is a set of Fallout 4 era weapons coming for the plastic T45 kit, but it will be a resin upgrade, not a plastic upgrade. Oh boy, fun times. But yeah, more power armor, and this is not the end of plastic power armor. It may not come in the form you think, so I'll let you all think about what that means before Ben dares daggers at me.
So Ben, do you know what that means? Do you know what? Are you frantically writing notes at this moment, just be like, what? He knows. It's a mask of joviality. It's a mask.
I hope he does, because technically Ben is starting to do some briefing too, so I am no longer the sole miniature briefer. So I hope he does, because if he didn't, I'm not sure who did it.
we just gave it to ChatGPT.
Oh God, no!
Well, I do with all my work.
So let's move on to something quite imposing. Creatures. I always love the creatures in a Wasteland Warfare wave, and this is no exception. This is the Gatorclaw.
So cool.
This is who was hiding in Julian's cage.
Exactly. Yeah. So this ain't gonna. Dreams do come true. Yes, exactly. if this was your dream, Chaps Weekend,
do we not all dream about gigantic gator lizard monsters rampaging through a theme park? Is that not everyone's dream?
I mean, not all.
I'm sure
the
everyone's
time.
had that at one point.
Exactly.
He put his arms on the XO1.
With enough modelling putty and hobby skill, yes, of course you can.
Yes, exactly. Everything is possible. But bear in mind, we ask for these things. Like, I think it's what the previous 2 ModCons, Joe has requested people paint ghouls and things with glow in the dark paints. No one has done this for her. If you're going to do this,
they totally have. Yeah,
they
I
did?
comment anytime. Yeah, anytime it pops up on Instagram, there's been loads of people that have been painting with like neons and UVs on like the Yao Guy and like on the Brahmin even, and yeah, they look
excellent.
great.
Well,
they
that's
look wonderful. I love seeing them. So keep bringing them
well,
on.
that's clearly sorted. So next time we want to see Gatorclaw arms on an XO1. That's what we want to see now.
Like in response to Sanjuro Tokaj, I've butchered that. Does he have an
actual
arm with a banjo? Yeah. I kind of want to put a cowboy hat on him now. The good news is that's easier than it used to be for reasons.
Yes,
but yes.
And a straw hat. Yeah, so here we are, bunch of the pack, probably having bitten off more than they can chew, but they've definitely picked up a large amount of chew here, taking this guy on. We move on now to the king himself, the Mirelurk king. Exactly. Are we still doing the hand raising thing? I don't know. I'm just watching.
I think that was
keeping track of it, but I haven't done anything here.
Crispy.
I think it's
both Gatorclaw and this one are crispy. Yeah.
So this is the one Mirelurk that's been missing for a while. Terra ? And so this has obviously been done up as a Nukalurk, and I think that's quite an interesting thing. So with this set, with the Nuka World book, it now allows you to run pure Nukalurks as a faction. So obviously all the pre-existing Mirelurks, the Queen, the Mirelurks, the Hunter, etc. Well, yeah. You can use those as Nukalurks with a cunning blue paint job, and yes, there are some new Nukalurk sculpts as well. And again, this has got one of my. I think I have a terrible sense of humor. I love dad jokes, even though I'm not a dad. Crispy put some very funny jokes in the basing on the taller of the two, the one that's raised up, not the one that's charging
Right.
through
Oh
the
yeah, this
water.
guy. Yeah.
But yeah, so you can now run a pure Nukalurk faction, and they do have a rules modification to become Nukalurks rather than Mirelurks. They basically gain more wounds, they are radioactive, so they do a little bit more damage, and they have a faction special rule that lets them put down radioactive ponds that they can stand in to heal themselves. So that's really good fun. So yeah, like if you like radioactive glowing blue crabs fed on a diet of slightly suspicious, totally not Coca-Cola, I think you can now run this as a faction, up to and
Yeah.
including the nuclear queen, and I can't wait to see people's radioactive blue crab armies, because what's better
Yeah.
than a whole bunch of radioactive crabs? So yeah, really really good
Definitely.
fun. And again, that it's nice to go back and bulk out existing sets. So we obviously did the previous Mirelurk with modifications to the pose. There are now 3 different quote unquote Nukalurks, and obviously if you want to paint them as Mirelurks you can, if you want to paint them as Nukalurks you can, because the difference is a paint job and nothing else. So yeah, that's kind of a fun like it's like a creature sub faction essentially, but now and
Yeah.
the specific instance here is you do not need a non-creature to lead them anymore. You can have the Mirelurk king or the Mirelurk queen as the faction leader, rather than have to have random Joe blogs coming along. Scuttle
Yeah.
Squad, there you go. That's the one.
Exactly.
Well done. War Games New Radio, I'm with you. Scuttle Squad roll out. And if someone puts little Squirtle dark glasses on them, even better. Like
Amazing.
You want
Amazing.
a pizza.
So we've got one full group left, and then the promo, which you probably noticed already, but
hopefully you've already bought.
hopefully. We always save the robots to last because it's what everyone asks for the most for some reason. So you got to wait. You got to wait till the end credits for Blorko to come out. But it's a reference. Eyebots, ladies and gentlemen.
After years of waiting.
Exactly.
6 years. We finally done it.
We heard
your cries, and we finally
heard
did
your
it.
cries repeatedly, and finally did something about it. No, as you probably noticed from earlier when Callum was pointing out how long ago he'd painted stuff. These things take a little while sometimes, but we do listen.
I think this again. I think Domingo did these, and if you've picked up Eddie, you would have noticed he built on a similar model, and this was kind of this was the progression. So we went the original, which was only available in one Brotherhood of Steel set, which was really frustrating for everyone, and also that model was an absolute pig to cast because it had so many aerials on it. We then did Eddie, who is the New Vegas character version of the Eyebot, and he has fewer aerials, but he has location holes if you want to drill and pin extra aerials in to make him the full good version. And so these are again a kind of an evolution of that. And what's interesting about these is these are not just the original version. Domingo has gone completely back to the drawing board, rebuilt them from the ground up, and we'll talk about the other model in this blog. That's in fact all the models, because I think Domingo did all the robots. He didn't just take the existing models. He's because again in 6 years we've all learned a lot with doing some things with the way we make miniatures. So these are a little bit bigger, a little bit the details a little bit crisper, a little bit more defined. They have fewer aerials, but again, they have those location holes. So if you want to put all the aerials on, you just drill a little hole and put a bit of paper clip or whatever in there. They do come with 4 different bases, so the Eyebot doesn't change, but they are on 4 bases. They don't come with those flight stands. They come with a ball and socket flight stand, because there's actually a round socket, so you can angle, so you can have speed cornering Eyebot as he drifts around corners like the little boy racer that he is.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm sorry it took so long. We knew everyone wanted it. We always intended to do it. It's just finding sculpt time, finding production time can be quite difficult. But we got there in the end, and yes, finally now you can buy a box of Eyebots, which I know people have wanted for quite some time. So don't say I give you nothing, community.
Exactly. It's your parting gift to us all.
This is my parting gift to the community. I give you Eyebot. Yeah.
I give you. And on the 5th day, he brought Eyebot. Speaking of robots that may look a bit familiar, but with a slightly different twist, the Space Sentry. This one looks nuts. It just looks absolutely bonkers. What a
So this was another Domingo sculpt and another Craig paint job from memory.
Mm.
Again, like the previous Sentry bot, optional arms. So this has got the twin laser arms, or it's got the missile launcher. The grenade pack on its back is an optional part as well, and there are rules for the mortar launcher now that didn't used to exist. So we've added a new weapon option, and again, I'm pretty sure we've retrofitted that onto the original Sentry bot as well. Don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. And again, Domingo went back and he rebuilt the Sentry bot chassis off the back of this, and modified a few things, brought the detail up, bulked out some of the details. So this isn't just we took the Sentry bot and put a different head on it. It also does come with 2 head options. So you've either got the quote unquote glass dome, which Craig's done a very clever paint job there to make it look semi-transparent, or it's got the actual robot head below the glass dome. We're not quite at clear plastic domes yet. Who knows what the future may hold, but we're not there yet. So I'm sure.
Make a note, Ben.
Yeah, someone somewhere is going to do it. Well done, them. And again, if you know your Nuka World and you know where you find the possibly the greatest waiter / drink pourer Nuka World has ever seen, you'll recognize the details on the base and the kind of the story there. So yeah, really good to. So who doesn't love a gigantic 3-legged killer robot that serves drinks? ?
I mean, it's obligatory. And excuse me. Finally, for robots, we're gonna head to more staff. The staff of the Starlight Interstellar Theatre. I love these. Look at these guys. What's that?
I painted an alternate version of one of these.
Right. I didn't know whether you were like playing a theremin or something. You're like,
no. I have painted a custom version of the Mr. Frosty, but these are not my box art, but they are beautiful.
No.
All the same.
Yeah, these guys.
Yeah, we wanted to. So there's 2 different Mr. Frothies. There's the Mr. Frothy server and the Mr. Frothy dispenser, and they have slightly different weapon builds. And we couldn't get it into this kit, but if you have the other,
Mr. Handy.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Handy's. You can swap the arms onto these because they use the same fitting for the arms, and so Callum did us a great conversion, part swap, however you want to describe it, for the server, because obviously the dispenser has 3 of the dispensing sprays, like fans, desk fans, but no, whereas the server has some of the claws. So if you've got the Mr. Handy kit, you can swap the claws on and do a little conversion, and we'll show photos and stuff. It's a super easy fix. And obviously, Callum kind of caught my eye with his ability to do cool robots with great weathering. So I think it was a nice chance for you to go back and kind of, it was almost like doing your interview all over again, right?
It was
on my radar.
Because that's what everyone always wants, that a second chance to have an interview, because they're so fun, aren't they? Yay! Okay,
but they're really cool models. They're really nice, and because I did actually work on that. They are it like the progression of seeing the Misty Handies were great to begin with, but as Jon has been saying, that kind of making things more defined, cleaner, crisper. You could really tell like the evolution, like the text on the front was really readable, and it was thick enough. You could do some nice blending, transitions, edge highlights, whatever you'd like to do. They are really nice bits of kit, these.
Yeah. And things we're talking about just that briefly, it might be worth mentioning that if you want to hear more amazing insights from Callum, Callum and me are going to start painting on the Modiphius Twitch channel once a month, probably the first Friday of every month, starting on October the 6th, because we're going to say a deadline and we're going to make a rod for our own backs, damn it.
We're going to do it. We have to.
Callum is, of course, a genius and can paint
I'm not
brilliantly. Well, I am also going to be there, and I may learn some things. So we'll see. So there have been people in chat going, "How do I practice to get so good?" It's like, I'm there with you, buddy.
You can do it.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I haven't painted anything in at least 20 years. So, and since then, Humbrol paint is no longer a thing. I don't know what to do.
It's what happened to it.
Totally, probably what happened. I stopped and they lost the customer. we've got one thing left to show. One thing left, which is the promo. You all know because we've been saying you can now go and get NIRA. NIRA is now available from Modiphius.net. And there she is, all happy and innocent, nothing to worry about there. Just to welcome you. Look, you know how helpful she is around the park. Why, you want some directions, I hear you say. But yeah, she's available now along with our other ModCon stuff, which is the STL objective marker, which we've got. There's one here. Look, hello. I've got one. And the Cthulhu PDF, which I know some people have already downloaded. But yeah, that's cool to say. One last thing, and this is Ben has been sitting here waiting patiently. We wouldn't dare do one of these without teasing Wave 10, would we?
Do we want to talk about the rules very quickly before we go to the Wave 10?
We can.
Just like I appreciate we're going to time, but
well, I mean, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine.
I just wanted to
let's do that then.
Like I say, like of all, like everything we've been doing has been building up to this point. So we went from card packs to books and da 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 da. And I think the Nuka World book really, if you buy one book, if you buy one Wasteland Warfare book this year, this is the one you want to pick up. And what we've really tried to do with this book is make it as kind of user-friendly as possible. So this book has had a visual refresh. So we work with a name familiar to old wargamers like me in Chris Byrne. So he came on and did some graphic design for us. And the book splits into 3 sections. So you've kind of got the and they're color-coded. So you've got the red section, which is the kind of background and miniature galleries, painting guides, all that kind of stuff. You've then got the blue section, which is the Vault-Tec approved section. Remember that name because Vault-Tec approved may be a thing in the future. And this is kind of the new and interesting thing. This is the thing that I think is really important for people. So the Vault-Tec approved is one of, I think, the biggest challenges for Wasteland Warfare, if I'm brutally honest, is it's quite an intimidating game to get into because there is a lot of moving parts, a lot of components, a lot of cards, a lot of dice, a lot of it takes some time to set up. If you are new, or if you are looking for a quick game, or if you're looking to demo someone, and you just need to hit the table and go, Vault-Tec approved is for you. So the Vault-Tec approved section, which is Vault-Tec blue, so you know where it is in the book, has pre-built loadouts for all the miniatures in this block. So you can just get them, print them out, photocopy them, rip them out, however you choose to do it. And it's got a pre-made profile. I should have got Steve to put one of these in the chat. It would make a lot more sense if you could look at it. So all the weapons, all the caps, all the rules, all the icons, everything in a half-page profile card, call it a stat card, whatever you want to call it, for those models. So if you just want to play the game and you don't want to work out what they're carrying and how many points they cost and got to go and get all your cards out of storage, and there's 3,000 cards in this game now. You're never going to find that one specific card with that one specific grid. It's all in there. If you still want to do the old-fashioned way, you can absolutely do that as well. All the cards are included as per the previous books. You can still make your own profiles and so on and so forth. But it's really trying to help onboard new people or get to a game really quickly, or if you want to do AI, pre-made AI profiles with everything you need in front of you, rather than having to have 10,000 cards here, there, and everywhere. So that, I think, is kind of the really... I'm interested to see how people respond to it. And even down to, we were saying earlier, like all of the miniatures have 2 builds for the plastics. You get rules for variant builds, so you have loadout A or loadout B, so you could even, have 2 models and have 2 different things. So should be really cool. There are also then a couple of rules changes. The kind of the one that's been in the game that we never really explained is how specific quick actions that are not the core 4 in the core rulebook work. So you may have noticed as the waves have gone on, there were more and more quick actions, and we never actually told anyone how to use them. So they've been explained. So it's things like shoot a rifle as opposed to quick action shoot rifle as opposed to quick action attack. That's been clarified. The other kind of 2 big changes, because I want to keep this quick because I appreciate we're going long, is the way specialities works. There's been a slight tweak, which is previously auras had to be There's some ambiguity around, did they work on only friendly models, only enemy models, or models in the aura, etc., etc. They have now been split into aura buffs and aura debuffs. And so if you know the aura icon, it's like a little circle with like a crown around it. Looks like the Statue of Liberty's head, vaguely, I guess. If it points up, it's positive, and if it points down, it's negative. And up only works on friendly people, down only works on enemies. So you no longer have that situation of like, hey, this thing gives everything in its aura +1 health. That's helping the enemy. That's bad. So that's kind of a change, and you'll see it in these cards. And no pressure, Ben. At some point, we're going to go back and update all the old cards to clarify what is now an aura buff and what is an aura debuff. So that's quite a big change. The other one that I think is interesting is the way armor has been done for this block. So threatened this for a while, but basically every model's base profile in this game that is not a robot or a creature has zeros for its armor value. Super mutants have X's for radiation because they're immune to radiation, otherwise it's zeros across the board. And now what you do is you buy the armor you want that model to wear. So you've added a bunch of missing armor cards. So there's obviously been armor cards in the past, but now there are more of those armor and more of those ranks. So you might have standard, sturdy, and heavy. I think I've remembered that correctly. For combat armor, leather armor, metal armor, so on and so forth. Obviously, if you're using the Vault-Tec profiles, that's already baked in, so you don't need to worry about that. But if you're building your own bespoke crew with all the custom cards, you start at 0 and then you add the armor in. And the reason behind that is it makes balancing points and balancing stats a lot easier, because obviously if you have a value baked in, benefit you will gain for changing your armor to something else differs depending on how good or bad your armor was baseline. And so by zeroing everyone out, you can now more easily say, well, a suit of armor that gives you 1 armor is worth X points, and if it gives you 2, it's worth Y points, and those points will now be even because everyone starts from 0. Obviously, things that don't wear armor, such as creatures and robots, have baked-in values still because they have what I suppose you call natural armor. So they don't. They still work on the old system because very, very few of those models could actually change those armor values anyway. There will be a handful where you can put body armor on Dogmeat and he does upgrade, but don't worry about that. But yeah, the basic premise is human or human-like characters now set to zeros, and then you buy the armor you want. And I think that's fun because it gives you a bit more flexibility. It definitely makes rules writing and balance a lot easier because all of a sudden we can be like, this is worth X, as opposed to, well, it's worth this to Paladin Dance. Totally different to Lizzie because Paladin Dance is in a suit of T60 armor base and Lizzie isn't. So yeah, I think they're kind of the main changes. There are a few other changes. They're all called out in section 3. I think the other really interesting thing in this book is there's a campaign. We've always done scenarios and campaigns before, but Sophie and the dev team have done a really good job with this campaign where it's kind of an area control campaign. So I think it's the first one of these we've done. So you make your way around Nuka World, and you're basically trying to take over each of the different parks. So if you've played the game, you fight through the park, and then you assign one of the gangs to control it. Similar kind of thing. You and your friends get together, and maybe I'm playing the pack, and Ben's playing the operators, and Joe's playing the disciples, and we would try and take over Nuka World. So just we're really trying to continue to grow the game and do interesting things with it. So all our books are great, but I think this one really is kind of the start of the next phase of Wasteland Warfare, and just trying to take, again, kind of what I was saying with the painting and the miniatures, really trying to take all the things we've learned and go to the next bit.
I'm sorry, John. I'm going to have to stop you. We're really out of time. We have to. Perhaps we can arrange like an AMA on Discord or something. Sorry to be the rude person, but we've got Acting Cthulhu waiting in the wings, and they're saying very naughty things to me. They're not. They're being very polite about it. What
just
we will
before,
do is,
if I can, very, very quickly, Steve, just take 10 seconds just to follow off the back of what John said. On Monday, there will be a free preview scenario release on the Modiphius web store, where you'll have a pre-made profile fully showing off the tech profiles and how they work. So you can go off and use your brand new NIRA in a custom scenario.
Excellent.
Don't worry, that's all I have to say.
No
I
worries.
can disappear into the back again now.
No, it's fine. The last thing I will ask you to do is to say, if you could, something about this, which is a tease for Wave 10, or do you just want to let that sit there?
Oh, I'm more than happy to let it talk for itself.
There you go. We'll leave that there then. Sorry for the yes. There's people in chat saying the right things. Sorry to have to cut that one short. A little bit of tech issues caught up with us there, but as always, if you have any questions for any of these lovely people, they can often be found on our Discord, which the links Nightbot has very handily just put in chat, discord.gg/Modiphius, or our forums if you are more of an old school type internet person. Otherwise, I think what we're probably going to have to do is say goodbye there. So if everyone could wave by and say thank you to all our lovely guests, and we'll be back in a few minutes with Acton Cthulhu.